Shall we start?
30th? Yeah.
Do we have any adjustments to the agenda? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes. So March 29th.
Second.
If there's no further questions, we'll vote on the approval of the minutes, March 29th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. New business. We have the local emergency operation plan, which
I didn't put one in there because it's this whole, so it's our annual operations plan. None of the details of, nothing in the details of the plan have changed other than changing names, like adding Denise as town clerk, you as chair. So that's the basic change to this operations plan. And it's just, I have to sign it once the board approves the annual operations plan.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the local emergency operations plan as modified, and that we approve Cynthia Stoddard as the signator for that plan.
All right, I second that.
it's been moved and seconded to accept and endorse the local emergency operation plan with the changes made necessary for this year. That is for 1 year, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. If there are any other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Right. All right, just in time. Next up, one excavator trailer. Did you find a good one yet?
Couple.
All right.
Yeah.
So basically, Brian, he's gonna update you on the progress of finding a trailer, and we're looking for some guidance on, you know, purchasing new versus purchasing old. I shouldn't say old, used.
Okay.
So I'll let him tell you what he's been looking for, and then maybe sometimes the ones that we're looking for, especially the used ones, are kind of on a time schedule of, okay, you either need to,
Right, we need to sell it.
we need to sell it, you know.
Yeah.
When you're in a used situation, sometimes that
Yeah.
comes up. The new one, maybe not so much, but so I'll let him.
Are we in a position to, you know, make a reasonably fast turnaround deal?
I think
With some
so,
things
because we have
find something
looked
we
at
like.
the budget and have figured out that the areas of the budget that there's some contracted service money that we're not going to spend. We had some savings in vehicle fuel.
Right.
So as far as the budget is concerned, yes.
Right.
I think we figured up to, I think it was like 14,000, 15,000, something like that we had wiggle room in contracted services.
And that's in this year's.
And that's in this year's budget.
I think basically all we needed to really find above and beyond that was like $1,400.
Yeah. For new.
For new.
Yeah.
For new.
Yeah. So kind of give them the overview of new versus what you found out there for.
Well, I guess I found a couple used ones. I went and looked at one, really nice shape. It was bent.
Broken. Oh, yeah.
It was just, it wasn't, nothing was broke. It was just bent. So.
Couldn't bend it back?
Well, wish you could, but yeah. So I found a bunch of them all the way from 5,000 and pretty much junk to 15,000 used. So.
And presumably a $15,000 used one is oversized for what you need, or
not really. Just, you know, kind of nice shape, and
yeah.
As you get closer to warm weather and summer,
More demand.
Yeah, the price of them seems like every time I call, it's like, I just talked about one a couple weeks ago, and it was $1,000 less.
Yeah.
Same shape, but so I found a new one. It's brand new. It's actually a 2014 model, but it's brand new. It's just one that was left over and never sold, and how, you know, whatever worked out. That was a Eager Beaver, which is about as good as it gets, I think. And that was $16,950. So That was fairly close. That was in Rochester. So obviously that, you know, those prices, most of these prices are all with us going to get it.
Rochester, Vermont.
No, New Hampshire.
No.
Yeah. Just over past Manchester a little
Yeah.
ways. So,
And
all the way to.
would they send it over, or you'd go get it?
I'd have to go get it.
Yeah.
All these prices were with us going to get it, just because most of them want $1,000 or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, we can send a truck over to get it for
Yeah.
cheaper than $1,000.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, all the way to Portland, Maine, and so.
That's a long drive.
Yeah, the new one was the one that was in Rochester. A lot of the used ones that I found lately have been in like right around Portland, Maine. So,
When are we getting the excavator?
I hope to get it sometime around July 1st. We put that out today to be
For
back.
bid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to be back. Well, it's actually not this coming Monday. The following Monday is when they're due back.
And would there be any sense in adding to that bid from anybody who would be submitting a bid for it, a trailer, or?
I've tried, and they all used to be, Nortrax used to be an eager beaver dealer, and
Yeah.
they've pretty much said, nah, they didn't really want to
Just
be
not
part of
their
it.
area.
The reason I did that was thinking, you know, if you're spending that kind of money,
Should
you know,
use-
you
yeah.
get a trailer with it, you might, but
Yeah.
they pretty much said no.
Did they charge for delivery of the excavator to us?
No,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a few $100 we could pick up that way, but
That's-
having the trailer on hand and picking it up ourselves.
That's all pretty much built right in.
Okay.
yeah. So,
So I guess the question is, do we give it some more time to see if there's any you know, other used ones come up? Or do we, what is the price of like this 2014, like, I know you said it's new, but since it's been sitting there a long time, is that a discounted price?
yeah.
What was it originally, do you know?
Or what would it be if?
Couple
you were
thousand
buying
more. I think I got a price on a
2016?
2017, and I think it was 18.6.
So it's
So it's,
$1,800 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Does that come with warranties? Or anything like
I
that,
think
or,
they. I'm not actually sure. I mean, there's not really a whole lot that can go wrong with them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're basically air brakes and suspension, and
Yeah, the only thing I would
Steel.
worry about with one that's been sitting is whether the
Yeah.
rotors are rusted up and,
Yeah.
you know, these are they drum brakes? or
Yeah,
disc
drum.
brakes?
They're just-
Air brake, drum brake.
yeah,
You know, whether the drums are rusted up and,
yeah,
you know, I mean, if we're gonna chew through pads right away because it's been sitting around,
Yeah.
then that would be too bad, but
right.
I don't know what you're feeling about that. It's-
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, we're gonna run into that, any kind of used equipment we buy.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, no, I know.
Well, wouldn't they,
You know.
would they sell it as is, new?
yeah.
As is new?
No, I don't.
I mean, it seems like-
I haven't asked. I should have asked.
I mean, it might be worth,
I'm sure
it
there's
might be
some.
worth asking them to, you know, take a look at those
Yeah,
drums and make sure that they're not,
Yeah.
because they
Yeah,
just,
or
that
ask them to
tends to be a
simply,
problem with them,
you know, predicate the deal on it, say, look, you know,
yeah,
we're interested, but you need to.
Make sure the
provide this.
brakes are all
Yeah.
tuned
yeah,
up.
yeah. I'm sure there is some kind of warranty on them. I mean, there's got to be anything you buy these days, especially when it's new.
Yeah,
I just didn't actually ask the question on what it was.
yeah.
So, I guess basically all I really wanted to know is whether I should.
Right, keep.
That's more than we want to go with, or for money, or you know, we want to stay in that used range, and that's fine if that's what we decide to do. I just, you know, this one came along, and I almost took it as that was like a little bit of, you know, it was like hidden over there. They didn't really know it was there. The salesmen probably don't really want to sell it. They'd rather sell a new one for
Right.
the more money.
Yeah,
And
a couple $1,000, yeah.
so,
Um,
but I just hate to see it. You know, they know it's there now, and
it'll go.
oh, we could
Yeah.
get rid of this somewhere to somebody. Who,
I guess my feeling would be it would depend on whether, I mean, if you were confident that between now and July 1st, you could find a good trailer for $8,000 to $10,000,
Yeah.
I'd be tempted to lean that way. But you know, we don't want to buy an $8,000 to $10,000 trailer, end up having to put tires on it,
Yeah.
brakes in it, you
Yeah.
know, get it gone through and spend 14 in order to have something that's the same as
Right.
something we pay 16 for new. So,
The other thing is, I think that, you know, I would assume the plan, I mean, my plan would be is that, especially if we buy a new one, hopefully in whatever the life cycle of the excavator is that, you know, the next time we wouldn't have to buy a trailer, you know.
right.
Because we're not gonna beat it like every day like a excavation company would, so
Right.
the thing should last us a long time, so.
Do
I
we
guess
have
there's two
cover?
ways of- there's-
Do we have cover for it? Do we have, I mean, would we be able to store it inside over winter or not really? Not really.
Yeah, not really. But there's really not a whole lot that even being undercover is gonna really.
No, again, just.
I mean, essentially it's undercover. The components are
Right,
undercover because of
right.
the deck anyways.
Right,
So.
Yeah, I suppose just before it gets tucked away for winter, make sure it's
Yeah.
pressure washed, et cetera.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
And do we have other uses for it beyond the I mean, would you end up trailering the hoe around or not?
No, probably
really.
not in town. But
Yeah.
you know, like when we do our bridge projects.
Yeah.
The last.
Pick up components. And,
Yeah, the last couple time when we did the redecking the wood bridges, I borrowed one
yeah.
because typically we go and we put it in the back of the dump truck and then it's just, you know, you just end up handling it. We have a
Right.
set of forks. You
Yeah. Put
fork
on
it and
bumps.
drive up to the bridge and
Yeah.
you just, instead of lifting it and lugging it all,
Yeah.
makes
And
it a lot
gives us the
easier.
capacity to truck stuff for repair.
Yeah.
As well,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah. I mean, it's, you know,
The one you're looking at is sized sufficiently for
yeah, yeah. It's actually probably.
probably a little over.
Little over.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
overkill, so.
But not ridiculously over.
No, I mean it's a, you know, typical. It's a 20-ton trailer, so you know the excavator's 30,000, so it's
Yeah.
a little over 30,000. So you need one bigger than
Better-
15
better than
tons.
that,
So
right, exactly.
it's hard to find one that's
Yeah.
even like an 18-ton. You don't
Yeah.
find them. You find
Which
them
is not
15 or 20, and
Yeah.
you kind of need the 20. So
Yeah. I don't know, you're the financial person, what do you think?
Well, I mean, when we started looking at this, Brian and I went through the budget and I was like, well, we need to make sure we have money. You know, we didn't budget, we didn't
Right.
do this
We
at
did
town
not
meeting,
cost
and
it,
so we
right.
need to, and I think we accounted for the last snowstorm as far as wages, and as long as, you know, knock on wood, everything goes okay. I mean, the vehicle fuel is where we saved some money this year.
Yeah.
And then the contracted services, there isn't much that's going to get done between now and June.
And you're
with
probably
contracted
feeling pretty good
services.
about mud season, I would think.
yeah, real good.
Yeah,
It's
So,
2 in a row.
that's, yeah,
so we were feeling pretty good about the $16,000 range, but really, you know, knowing that we wanted to try to get it lower if we could, but then there's this, like you said, this chance of losing the newer one and
Right.
taking a gamble on finding a used one
Something
that's gonna
used
be
and
sufficient for the
putting money
lifetime
into
of
it
the,
anyway.
yeah.
yeah,
So,
so.
I guess the big thing is
I mean,
you
this-
can always find one.
Right,
You know, you'll always be able to find one, but
it's also your time, I mean.
Right,
how
it's
much-
like-
Yeah.
how much
It's like
is it?
buying clunkers. Do you buy, you know, three $5,000 trucks, or do you spend 15,000 on something
Right.
decent?
right.
Yeah, and that little sewer truck, I wish we had spent 15,000 on instead of the, yeah, cause that, we've put a lot of money into that little thing, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is
I
something
mean,
to be
sometimes
said
you get
for.
lucky, but for the most part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think we can, I think the warranty question is a good question, the whole as
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
what their questions, and then maybe you and I can,
Yeah,
I mean, I think for this particular trailer, we could have them say, yeah, we're really interested, just, we need these questions answered, and
Yeah.
then we could give you a final.
Right,
Yeah.
we just need a, full overhaul checkout of it before it leaves their lot
Yeah.
to meet
Yeah.
whatever, set criteria we give them and say, look, we're interested, but.
I mean, the other thing is that, I'm gonna go and pick it up, so I'm gonna look at it. If it's
Right.
not what it is, it's
Right.
not what they're saying it is,
Right,
I'll
exactly.
just leave.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna,
Yeah,
it's gonna have to be pretty nice, so.
yeah.
And they say it is. They said it's had a couple excavators on it, just as almost like a demo is what it is.
Yeah.
They put a couple on because guys wanted to see how their machine fit, and it wasn't right for them, or whatever the reason.
Yeah.
And but they said the decking is all really nice. It's not all warped.
It's wood
and
deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, white oak.
Yeah.
So that stuff's pretty rugged.
Yep.
Is that, I imagine it's recommended for that, at least that size is dimensions is recommended for the excavator that we're getting?
Yeah.
I mean, how do we know ours will fit?
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, I mean it's actually
Okay.
bigger than what we actually need. But basically, the only difference between this one and the next size up would be a 25 ton. The only difference, it's actually the same exact trailer.
Right.
It's just got an extra axle under
Yeah.
it. It's got a
Yeah.
pusher third axle.
Yeah.
So it's the same exact trailer. The frame and suspension and everything is the same. It's just you put another axle that has the airbags that
Takes it
push
over,
down
yeah.
and takes the
Yeah.
extra weight.
I mean, I guess if we could leave it as, because this is one of those things that we can, as long as we get do the procurement process, which is finding out quotes and looking, if it's within the budget, Brian and I can spend the money.
Right.
We just want, but I think what, obviously within the next 2 weeks while we find this stuff out, if he finds something different
Yeah.
that he feels comfortable with that's less money, then him and I will just go ahead.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
it's just
I think,
it's a question of whether they're really gonna hold on to it for you.
Right.
For 2 weeks.
Right, if they're
Somebody else
not-
comes along and says, hey,
Well, I
if they
express-
are pushing us
express
a
that
little
we,
more and
are
we get
interested.
these questions answered, and I think if Brian and I feel comfortable with it, I get the feeling from you guys that you're feeling that that's probably the way to go, unless some just miraculous in the next few weeks.
and there's no municipal deals that,
Well, not really. They're basically their municipal deal is they sell at $600 over cost.
invoice.
Yeah. So, and then this one being that it's 3 years old,
Right.
it's actually under what the cost was when it. But they want to get rid of it. They don't want the thing sitting around.
Yeah.
So.
So why don't we give it, till we meet again, 2 weeks,
Okay.
if something comes.
Unless something comes
Right,
up that they're
but
like,
express to them, that
Yeah.
we're interested in reaching that
Yeah.
decision, and if
So I'll ask them
check
about
it
the
out.
warranty and
yeah,
yeah.
and probably if they can hold on to it for the 2 weeks, they can start getting paperwork. We can talk about it, and then we can have it really going by then.
Yeah.
By that time, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
sounds good.
You good?
Roads
Good.
look pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a few spots, but
Yeah, all right,
it's
but
been
not-
kind of jump here and there and try to just damage control a little bit on those, which isn't really even that bad, but it's phone hasn't been ringing, so that's a good sign.
All right.
So we did, while he's here, let's
Yep.
just, we did create the job description and the advertisement for the 6th highway worker. We've changed it a little bit. It's an entry-level highway worker. This person is not gonna be doing the maintenance and highway like we had originally talked, because Lenny is gonna be doing that. Lenny, who was already on the crew. He's gonna take that position. So, so if you see the job description, it's a little bit entry level, not necessarily, equipment and all of that stuff right now, but just basically what
Are we
Lenny.
looking for somebody with a CDL to start?
CDL or with it, we'll get it within
Or
the
capacity
first
with
3
the-
months.
to get
Yeah,
started.
they have to get it within the
Yep.
first 3 months, and, which is what we did the last
Right,
time.
yeah.
So that's I think the ad will go out next Friday.
But your interest is to have somebody who's interested in training on the larger equipment.
Yeah.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of always the goal.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can, somebody wants to learn and wants,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, more guys is better, as far as that's concerned.
Yeah. I mean, the more you have that can do everything, the easier it gets,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely.
But it's not crucial, because we're in pretty good shape right now as far as who can run what, and, you know, we're decent, so. But one more would never hurt.
Yep.
Alright.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Oh, no, you gotta stay the rest of the.
I do.
Brett's here. Don't you want to stay? Talk with Brett?
Email.
So yeah,
You guys can watch him.
$80
Yeah, see ya.
All right. Next up is,
Do we want to go? Are you here for the Taylor Road thing? Okay, you're just here. Okay. Oh, I thought maybe you were here because I said something. Okay. Just here to observe. Okay.
we have a, right, it's the public records request policy.
Yep.
That's the
So
name on this.
this has kind of been in the works for me for a while because we have had some public records requests that we really don't have a process. And I'll give you an example of the requests that we've had. Remember the request I had at one time asking for employee information?
Right.
That I get on a regular basis requests for vendor information. Adam Abrams sent a request for some abatement meeting information. So this is this policy is outside of the normal land records, marriage license, stuff
which
that's
is
easily,
statutory anyway.
yeah, that's all statutory anyway. So the league has so Denise and I talked about it as how are we going to keep track? We've never really had a tracking system or a requesting system. So we felt that if all of us in the office used the same method for these type of requests, we could keep a file of requests, what the follow-up was, whether it was denied, if it was denied, why it was denied, that kinds of things. Tom gets public records requests sometimes for insurance companies and different things that are related to fire. So if we all used the same policy and the same request form, then it would be more uniform throughout the whole. So the league has a policy, a model policy that's about 7 pages long. And it was exhausting to read. I'm sure it covers every single scenario that there is. Then I went to another website for a town that has one that it was a 1-page thing that seemed a little bit too, yeah, so I combined both of them. I haven't had a chance to give this to Denise for her to look at, which I want her to do. But this is kind of a once through of this is what I'm thinking about having for a policy, and it's pretty basic. It's basically saying what the purpose is to make sure the public, we allow access for inspection or copying, that regardless of whatever format we have to supply public records to if we're requested. There are some exceptions under 1 VSA 310 section C of what is not a public record. So that's listed in here as to that's the statute that we could go to if somebody requests something that we don't think is a public record. And that not every public record request will necessitate the use of this form. Land records, zoning. I have people come look at zoning files all the time. I wouldn't make them fill this out because that's just overkill. And that there's a section in here of us being able to charge somebody for the copies, for the time it takes for us to look through the public records and try to get this information together for them. So that part is covered in here. And then there's a public records request form, there's a draft, and then the response to the public record.
So that we have.
Yeah, so we figured if we had those 3 things and everybody did it the same way, if somebody came in and had a request, we'd have a process to do it. It's pretty basic. It's not, I mean, I don't want to make it any more complicated than it has to be, but we've run into within the last 5 years that I've been here 3 or 4 times that it would have been nice to say, this is what we can charge, this is what we need in order to get the process going, and then something as a follow-up to prove that we did it. That way we don't get ourselves in trouble. Because I think you have to respond within, I think there's a 5-day period. There is an appeal process if someone doesn't think that we have, like if we say we think it falls under an exception. And that would have probably happened in that request for the employee records. Remember, we had that request and I was trying to get out of him exactly what it was that he wanted out of the employee records. But I didn't have if I had had that form, I could have said, you have to fill this out in order for me to comply.
Request a specific
and then I could have worked through, I told him he needed to request in writing and he never did, and so I never followed through with it, but it's just a more formal process. And then there is an appeal if we say there's an appeal to the select board if one of us says, no, you can't have it, or why we didn't do it.
I would suggest that we probably should have Larry just give it
I can have him give it a,
We have.
Most of the language I took right out of the VLCT policy.
The only other thing I noticed, there's one right, just up where it's a plural for
Word for public.
for a public record, so it should either be for public records that are, or it should be for a public record that is.
I'll take that. Okay. So,
yeah, it'd be worth having Larry look, just in case there's, one sentence that's left out,
Or
that
something
he says
we're
you
not
really need that in
including
there,
I do have a concern that I'm trying to make it more difficult than it is, but yes, I will.
I mean, I think encourage him, tell him you want to keep it as simple as possible, and we want to keep it as simple as possible, but if he could just make sure that it covers the basics.
And I'll have Denise read it, and then if you guys, I'm sure you probably didn't have time to go through all of it. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Scott. So if you could go through it, and if there's any other things like what Josh thought, or if you think anything's missing.
I'm just wondering if we want to, clarify that certain public records are readily available. That there would be that this doesn't express a change in any of the current situation.
Well, it does say, however, so would this cover it? However, when a request is made for a public record.
Land records, deeds, things like that, the standard research that people are doing.
Yeah, that certainly implies, that certainly.
Right, no, I was just looking
for one that
if it wants to be somehow clarified.
There was in the other towns.
It's implied that there are some that are
sufficiently clarified in this wording, then that's fine, and perhaps.
Now the town of Derby had one I think it was Derby that I looked at, and they did put a list of exceptions, land records, marriage, so we could.
Might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm just wondering. It avoids. Your time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to explain. And I can work with Denise on the ones that I can say zoning. And then she can tell me. Yeah, we can put that in there.
No, but I definitely appreciate getting it down to 1 page from 7.
Yeah.
I glanced at it online, and it's pretty.
It's really cumbersome, and it covers.
Yeah.
It does, but.
I mean, by the time you get to that point where you're needing to be that in-depth, you're probably dealing with more than your town policy anyway.
My guess, what I got out of it is that it was, I don't think it was necessarily built for them, but it's more geared towards police departments, is what the feeling I got from reading, because I went to another town that had it. They had that policy for the police department.
Oh.
And then another policy for the town.
Right.
Because the police department obviously
Different
does have
set of-
information
yeah.
I mean, it talks about redacting information. I mean, it was like this whole, my feeling is if we get a request here that we feel is an exception to what we have to give the public, which is very little. There's never really been much that I've thought I shouldn't give to the public, then I would contact our attorney anyways and say, what is your opinion on whether we can, because even if you go to one VSA on the exempt,
I know, it's
so vague, if you think it's personal in nature. I mean, so I'm very careful about, there's rarely anything that I've ever thought that I should not give the public. the one time I really questioned it was when somebody wanted employee records.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no.
And I was not, I was feeling like I'll fight for that one, because that
Well,
was
and that
really
was
personal
also
to me.
a scenario in which we weren't familiar with the person who was requesting.
The person and
their
motivations for
reputation
doing
was
so.
and wouldn't provide it in writing what they
Exactly.
wanted, so, yeah.
It's a little slow.
Okay, so this will come back up, I'll have Denise look at it, like I said, I'll have Larry look at it, and then I'll do some, so this was kind of the first shot at it. If you guys read through it for the next meeting and see anything else, I'll try to get it to you a few days prior to the meeting, any changes I make, so that you can review it before. Sound good?
Sounds good. All right, so, town-owned property.
Okay, so I went and got the computer, because I knew it had something to do with my Banks Road.
There's an access that comes.
Is that where Turner Road goes through?
Okay, so, let's see. I don't know if everybody wants to come up here, but, so here, I'll turn it around in a second, okay? So, I don't know if that one's gonna make it. So here's Taylor Road, this is coming off of 5.
Yeah.
The access, so this is the piece of property that we bought in a tax sale a long time ago. When you come off of, I want it to say parcel names. Let's see that option. When you come off of Taylor Road, this is this property. This is the access here, and it comes along here.
Oh, really? And it's a legal right of way?
It is a legal right of way. I have the survey right here. It doesn't end up, I'm told, I've never been out there, I'm told that there's not like, there's a legal right of way, but it's not
obvious.
visible.
It's
Yeah.
not developed.
The reason I was talking about Pine Banks Road is because the people that purchased this property here,
Right.
Yeah.
it abuts their property. That's how I found out about this property. They wanted to know who owned that.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out we did. So we purchased that property back at tax sale in 2002.
Does it?
This property owner is interested in purchasing it, and I haven't gotten back to them because I was trying to find out the legalities of us having to advertise and that kind of thing.
What's the size? 2.3?
Isn't another, I don't know, that's another issue.
Yeah,
but
2.3.
That's not town road.
Correct.
Right, so is that, I mean, as far as trying to sell it from the other side, that's gonna be.
From the Taylor Road side?
Yeah,
it's gonna
that's
be
gonna
difficult, and they're gonna have.
Taylor Road is not town road?
No, up to a certain point, so right here, I think
Oh,
that's
yeah,
us today.
beyond that.
Beyond that. Do you want me to turn it around so you can zoom in on it? I don't know how good you can zoom in on it, but it's this one that's in the red. Got it. And this is Taylor Road over here. We're talking about the access being across here. And
Yeah.
then Pine,
Is the red off of like Cox Road?
well, where's Cox Road?
Cox Road is on Pine Banks.
Oh, no, that's up here.
Oh, okay, yep,
Yeah, a little further up.
Yeah.
I see, okay.
No, so that piece abuts a piece of land that used to be.
So Michael, there's a
Susan
Michael
Mullen's
Mosier.
Property, and before that it was Rick Kipps.
This one right here is labeled as Michael Mosier and then Lois Butler.
And they split it.
It's all got
And
chopped
those
up
are
right there.
on,
All right.
That's so if you come out here, because this is all non-town maintained, right?
yeah, exactly, right. Yeah,
So I did a little research on selling property that a town purchased at tax sale. First, I had contacted a real estate agent for them to give me what fair market value they thought that property was worth. And I want to say that she told me it was like 20,000, 24,000. I don't have that exactly. 24.5 is what she said. Suggest list price of 24.5 with sale price that most likely would be in the range of 19 to 21.
And that is with a right of way. I mean, but not a developed right of way. And you said it's 2.3 acres?
Yeah.
So does that, I guess what I'm curious about, does that right of way extend all the way to the town maintain? How does that work?
No.
No, it doesn't, because
So, I mean-
it's coming off of the.
Right.
Right, it goes to the private
And
road.
it looks
there are
like
other
it dissects
houses-
somebody else's property.
Yeah, but there are other properties out here
Oh,
that
that
I
are
believe
using
that are
it.
using it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just when it
right.
gets to this point,
That's the end of it.
that I believe is the end of it, and there's nothing, there might be, have you been out that way, Brett?
I'm curious if it comes off of like Carl Baumberger's.
Right.
Cause
He's
his
not- he's
goes
not
up in there a
direct
little bit.
abutter.
He's
Oh,
not
I guess he
direct.
is.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
It
this is
probably goes along
this
that
is a
border.
line I drew.
Right,
so-
it probably goes, presumably it goes along
It was
that
based
border.
off of this survey.
Yeah, no,
That,
I'm
that
sure
would
that
be,
goes across.
that would be my guess from
Yeah.
the little bit that I've been
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Um,
So, okay, so the next step was I went to the real estate agent, asked her if she could, give me a price. So then I had heard at a training somewhere along the way about selling properties that a town has purchased at tax sale and not being able to profit off of that. And I couldn't remember where I heard that. So I contacted the attorney. And so he sent me a court case. There is a court case that, and the gist of the ruling is that a town cannot profit off of a tax sale. They have the fiduciary responsibility to try to get the best price, but after you profit it, let's say we listed it, so in other words, we
What did we
couldn't just
pay
sell it
for it?
for that. I think it was like $6,000. It wasn't a lot. It was, so if we were to say, okay, we just want to sell it for what we have into it, we couldn't do that. We have a responsibility to try to get what we can get, fair market value, if that's what it is. If we get above, we can recoup our costs after that sale, but whatever we get beyond that, we have to return to the original owner.
But I guess what I'm,
Huh,
Yeah, really.
that's,
how about though,
Which is who? And they're still alive?
I don't know anything about them.
how long have we had it?
Since 2002.
I mean, you'd think you could argue that, we've lost all the taxes on that.
Well,
property for that
interesting
time.
you should say that.
Right, you know.
Presumably,
Because,
yeah.
Hold on. The town may not recover taxes which could have been assessed against the property during the town's period of ownership because the town made the election to retain the ownership of the property.
So if we had sold it right away,
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't really matter whether you sell it right away.
Sale proceeds received by the town of Putney in excess of the tax sale purchase price and sale-related expenses should be returned to the original delinquent taxpayer if the whereabouts of that person can be ascertained.
So, and what, did you find out anything about the fair process for this? I mean, presumably,
He said that
we'd want to notify all the abutters.
He said because I asked him if we needed to list it. If the town decides to sell the property, it must do so in a commercially responsible manner. The town is not required to advertise the property for sale, but it must make a good faith effort to obtain a commercially reasonable price. So we don't have legal responsibilities as far as that's concerned. Even though it's not legal, I think it would probably be the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, like I said, there was one couple that was interested in it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that
Yeah, I would
nobody
think-
around there bought it at tax sale at the time, but there may be different owners now, I
Right.
don't know. Which I don't have I think that would be the responsible.
Real estate management, is that Peter? Do you know? Didn't Peter stand on some stuff in there?
Yeah, it might be him.
I think it might be.
But I'm not sure, this was a while ago, and I'm not sure if that's changed hands since. It seems like something happened with that one. I'm not
Yeah,
really
I
sure
mean-
what we bought this property for to begin with, but, and the reason for the reason for this ruling was that they didn't want towns to start getting in the real estate
Right.
business
Yeah,
where
makes sense.
every time there's a tax
Lowball
sale,
it and, yeah.
we purchase it and then turn around and make a profit on it
Right.
when they don't redeem it. Yeah, they don't feel like that's a town's.
if we sold it for more than we purchased it for, making a profit, and were unable to locate the former owner
I think then we could keep
or
it.
there are
That's
signs,
just-
right, no,
Yeah.
right. is
Sounds
that-
like select board slush fund to me.
Ah!
That
Yeah,
was
but
a joke.
we've got to get it through Cynthia first. We'll never see a dime in this.
Pretty sure I'm not gonna put that in your paycheck.
Sounds like an axle on a trailer to me.
Yeah, another 5 ton.
Let's see, who does all that right now?
No, or, yeah, I mean, I guess it would just
Yeah,
make
no,
sense for it
I
to just go into the general fund. I was gonna say maybe it
No,
goes
I
to
mean,
the
it's
social
really just
service budget or.
a question of, you know,
So the question
how far
is,
back do we have to go, you know?
do we want to hang on to this piece of property for any reason? Why we bought it at the beginning, I have no idea.
Presumably, because nobody else took it. I mean,
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that, Reg
No,
and
it was-
John
It was Jim,
Oliver.
Jim Moore.
I think it was Jim Mullen. He was here in 2002.
Right. he went down
Jim
there.
Mullen.
As the town manager, right, no, I'm talking about who was on the
Oh, yeah.
select
But
board.
the select board. would-
Reg would have been John Knopp or Reg, I think. Maybe that was just before
And
John.
Jeff,
Yeah, none of the minutes that I read gave really any,
2002. I think it might have been Jeff and Jeanette.
it could have been, there was a time when boards were buying whatever nobody else would buy.
Well, that's sort of what I'm
Yeah,
thinking
there
is
was.
that
I
it was
don't-
just
they don't
sitting
do that.
there.
It was,
anymore,
right,
but-
right, it was.
They don't do that much anymore, probably
'Cause
for
you
this
can't
reason.
profit off
Can't
it.
profit off
Yeah.
it. So, I would like to pursue trying to, because for me, it's more about getting it back on the tax rolls to somebody.
I was gonna say, we do win in
the end.
In the end,
And,
we cover our
You know,
our
let
costs.
somebody that lives around there, if they want a little bit
Own
of
it.
extra land, own it,
Right.
you know?
Well, and/or if somebody's looking for a parcel, I mean, it's a buildable parcel, right? What's this? Is this related to
Yeah, I
it?
think this is.
So it's got a septic plan. Or it's got septic approval anyway.
Survey.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a survey. So, so we're looking at this parcel right here. So see, here's that's the line I tried to draw.
Right
Wood
away.
Road, it's called. Huh, doesn't follow those boundaries exactly. Huh.
See, we did own this one too, and then that, whatever that
Oh.
next, I knew it was
Yeah.
something, that real estate property management, they're out of Hadley, Mass, they now own that. So at one time, I think at the same time, we bought both of these.
So how did we?
I don't know, I didn't look at it.
And did anybody profit?
I don't know. I didn't look into that parcel.
I'm still curious though, if that right of way goes into a road that's not town owned, whoever owns that, they don't have to give right of way to anyone, do they? I mean,
Who, the
Yeah.
Taylor Road,
Yeah.
you mean?
yeah,
Well,
Taylor
they
Road.
probably do.
I think
because it's
probably in their
Agreed.
deeds, they
Yeah.
have a
Okay.
right of way all the way up through there. I would
Okay.
hope so.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, that particular property, yes, that's what I'm,
it would be, well, it would probably be listed on the deed for that property.
that their right
that the
of way is from Taylor,
extends to-
yeah.
Taylor.
Yeah, otherwise they wouldn't
From
be able
the
to
town
draw.
main.
on
Well,
the
that's what I
survey.
mean, and
Right.
as long as it's in perpetuity and stuff like that, I
Yes.
guess that's right.
Yes.
Actually, there might be some people interested. You know, to get a property,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
that expensive.
It's not that expensive, it's true.
Yeah, just-
No, I mean, it's a question of what its value is to the abutters versus, I mean,
Right.
you know, I think for all practical purposes, you almost do it as an auction.
Oh, probably.
You know, I mean, that you notify the neighbors and notify, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't get that.
Right, no, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think of sort of the most fair way to try and get the best price for it. I mean, if we
So
can't
I
profit
guess
off
the
it.
question is, so if I contact the abutters and tell them this is what we're thinking about and just kind of gauge the interest, I mean, I don't know if it's up to us, but I would rather see an abutter get it I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to me, I guess. So do we just list it?
Right, it's whether the abutters care whether,
Yeah. I think
Whether
we
they'd
should talk
rather
to,
see.
yeah. But I don't know, the abutters, I mean, it
if
started
we
with
can-
an
I mean,
abutter
if we're-
conversation because that's who approached me, was somebody that bought property and built a house out here and wondered who owned that property and,
Well, we should also probably find out what we can about who the original owner was and whether they're still, I mean, because if it's incumbent upon us to try and get the best price for it, then we can't just contact the abutters, and if one of them comes forward and says, hey, yeah, I'll give you $8,000 for it.
right, we have to,
That's not,
I think we
that's
have-
not
we have
really
to
trying
list
to
it.
get the best, well, it didn't say that we have to list it, does it? But
well, I mean, it says, it was not required to advertise it, but a good faith effort to obtain commercial, I guess not.
So
And
that-
technically, it's
right.
not a listing, but, no, because then we'd have to pay a commission, so why, yeah.
Right. I mean, if,
I'll ask Larry
I don't
what
know.
a good faith effort means.
yeah.
Does that mean we should
It might also,
advertise it and notify the abutter? What does that mean?
who it might be worth touching base with on this, just because he does this kind of stuff a lot, is Steve Anselm, he's the lawyer that has done, do you know him? You must. He's the one who's done most of our, isn't that his name?
Steve and?
Steve Anselm. He's done most of our tax sales, or did, he was the lawyer that handled most of our tax sales for a long time.
It wasn't Ian Kuda?
And Kuda, was it?
I don't know. It was somebody. But that name you just said does not ring a bell to me at all.
That's what I thought it was.
But I can look.
Larry would know, or somebody, yeah. Maybe it is Ancuda, I can't. I thought it was Steve Anselm. Anyway, we should probably find out, because whoever that was, Steve somebody,
Well, I can look at
he
the-
does a lot of that kind of stuff, so it might be, the other person to check with would be the league, if they have any advice. I don't know whether they do or not.
Yeah, well, they probably won't give me any advice because we've already gotten a trial notice. They won't give,
Don't want to override.
they won't
yeah.
override what he said. So, well, I'll do
Okay,
a little,
good. No, whatever.
isn't it Ian Kuda? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, sorry. Steve Ancuda, yep. So it might be worth checking, actually, and he may well, yeah, they're the ones who sold it in the first place, so they might have records
He
on
might
it.
have been.
So what am I asking him? About who the owner was before? What am I asking?
Well, that might be worth doing, but it might also be worth just checking with him in order to fulfill that.
Oh, I'll just ask
obligation
Larry,
to-
because the attorneys aren't going to,
No, he's just knowledgeable
no,
about
I know.
tax sale properties and
Okay, okay,
whether, whatever you want to do.
yeah. I will ask Larry what he meant by good faith effort, what he thinks the best process is. And I'll just send a letter to the abutters too and say, look, we're talking about this.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
Right, and if,
Something
somebody
airways done.
is ready to come forward with
Yeah.
to buy it.
I think, to me, a good
I-
faith effort is notifying the abutters and then an advertisement of some sort that says, this is what we have.
Right, or public notice that,
Yeah,
this.
and to
And
me, that's a
where
good faith
the
effort.
auction option comes into a,
that if other interested parties
As opposed
kind of
to
thing.
But what I'm
Yeah,
hearing is
I
that we think we
realtor.
should sell it.
Yeah,
Yes.
However that,
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's recoup our loss and put it back on the tax rolls.
okay,
It's a win.
that sounds good to me. I will get some more details.
Check to see if there's any mineral rights underneath it first.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Environmental review,
Right.
archaeological dig.
All right.
is it a good cell tower site?
I don't know, because they just put one out on Pine Banks Road not too long ago.
Yeah, there's one up off of.
There's one off.
what's that?
Up of,
Really? Did you say that?
well, off of Daigle Road, but also on Pine Banks up to the left.
Across from the,
Sort of
Kissel
just
Farm,
Before-
right?
Just before Daigle Road, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
yeah.
across from
Behind
Kissel
where
Farm.
Oh, on
Dave-
Pine
Dave
Banks.
Kissel's
No.
house up
Yeah,
there.
sorry.
Before Collins?
I was
place?
thinking of,
Mike Collins?
I'm not sure. Kind of halfway
Yeah.
between
Going out
Corner
Westminster
Road
Way.
and
Yeah.
Daigle Road.
Look
it
up,
is,
wow.
yeah,
look up
it's
Daigle
right there.
Road and it's, right.
Wow.
It's visible from, well, not really from
Did
my.
Denise come in yet?
I think I
Okay.
saw it.
No, I'm not thinking, Town Farm Road, they put one up to the left off of Town Farm
Oh,
Road.
okay.
a handful of years ago.
Yeah, by Ellis,
Yeah,
or Kirk Ellis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. That's all on that?
I think so. I think like there's a little bit more information I need to find out before we.
All right. So we have a Rescue Inc. contract for FY8.
Yeah, it's a little early, but I figured we might as well get that out of the way.
What's that?
So it's just for the next fiscal year, and I don't know if I sign that or you sign that.
Municipal representative signature. Sounds like
Either
you.
one. It doesn't matter.
and what's the cost?
What was it in the budget?
Budgeted for,
Oh, it's just
Yeah.
straight out of the budget.
Yeah, it's out of the budget. It's what we passed in March.
Right.
so,
I can't tell you.
I'll make a motion to allocate Cynthia as the signator for the contract for the provision of emergency medical services through Rescue Inc.
all right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the Rescue Inc. contract for FY18. The cost already laid out in the budget. No, I'm not having that figure in front of me. Any other questions before we vote? I'll take a minute to look it over.
Yeah. It's a pretty old revision, 2013.
Yeah.
Oh.
Pretty
That,
straightforward.
this didn't go with it. I'm sorry. That's something different.
So,
Yeah, I was wondering why that was included.
No, it's just this. That was at the bottom of this.
all right,
Good.
That was for our
so we've
delayed
been moved and
copy.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Okay.
Alrighty. And what do you have for us for Tom?
Well, I think maybe if we want to just update them on our meeting with Keith and Mark. So I asked Keith Clark, Sheriff Clark, and Mark Anderson came as well to meet with Josh and I to talk about the contract for FY18 starting July 1st. We voted at town meeting to put some extra money in the budget above what we had originally proposed. I think it's up to 70,000 now.
70-ish, yeah.
For the 40 hours a week. But I just wanted to make sure that it was clarified that we were talking about this same things that we talked about at town meeting, that the contract was going to cover some of those things, and some of it being the level 3 officer. We talked about the town representatives helping to maybe not select the person, but be a part of that process of who it might be. And so I felt that the meeting went really well, that Keith understood what, he really heard what they were saying, I felt, at the meeting. And the next step will be to get me a copy of the new contract. And I've called a public safety meeting for next Thursday, the 20th, to let the public safety committee look over the contract, talk to them about the meeting with Keith and Mark. And there was a suggestion from Keith that we choose 3 people, maybe from the committee, to, he has an idea of some.
Not necessarily from the committee.
No, but that was, yeah, no, it didn't absolutely have to be, but it was
but-
three representatives, I should say. He has some level 3 officers. He has, I think, a couple probably in mind that might be a good fit here. Josh is gonna be going for training to become a level 3 in the fall, I think he said. that
So
he
had
would,
somebody else in mind that would be the level 3.
yeah, and let this small group of town representatives meet with that person casually. Just talk to them about, you know, what they know of the committee's recommendations and what they think the town's looking for, and just see if this person would be a fit. So that would be, I mean, and if it's not, you know, I got the sense that there may be others he could pick from, or he may have to hire somebody.
Yeah, the other thing we talked about, you know, I think it's important that we, you know, for the same reason that we had so much discussion about Rescue Inc. a few years ago and our contracting with them, that part of what we were doing was supporting a regional ambulance service. And I personally feel that that's part of the process that we're doing with the Sheriff's Department as well. And so sort of that question of, you know, we're clear that we don't want to, you know, have somebody here for X number of years and then start with a brand new person each time kind of thing. But one of the things we talked about is perhaps Josh and whoever the other person is who comes during the time that Josh is away, then share the responsibility for the town to a certain degree. My thought about that was that if and when then one of those people moves on, if we had 2 people that were familiar with the town, you know, if you brought on a level 2,
sense of continuity.
Exactly. If you brought on a level 2 for a period of time, but still had one of your level 3s that had already been here, you know, not that you'd have 20 hours a week from each of them each week, but you know, one week it might be 30 hours from one and 10 from the other. But just that there were 2 people who were familiar with the town and the folks, and so on and so forth.
Comfortable and answerable.
Talk to. And some people might feel more comfortable with one, and some people more comfortable with the other. And then also, you know, as far as that kind of concept of a regional service, you know, I think it makes sense for us to be supportive of bringing new people in as well. I mean, I'm not adverse to, for example, Josh, you know, being a level 2. Is that what we want all the time? No, not necessarily, but I think if that's what we're getting sometimes in the interest of being able to train and help be part of the process of bringing people up through the ranks, I think that's important.
So we're looking at something that somewhere in between somebody constant
full-time
that, and then having to go through you know, an adjustment at the point that they move on, or, you know, completely open rotating schedule.
Yeah.
Which would have been our situation with VSP.
Exactly, right. And you know, the other upside of that is that you theoretically avoid burnout. You know, I mean, a little bit of variety to be able to shuffle somebody around if you need to. That's probably potentially helpful too. You know, we left it, I think, a little bit open as to exactly how that would work, but with the understanding, Mark Anderson, who is, I can't remember exactly what his
operations
manager.
Yeah.
Essentially, he will be the liaison between the town and Keith, and he's the one that we would be in touch with to make sure that things are proceeding as we want them to. But as Cynthia said, she doesn't want to, and has said all along, she doesn't want to be micromanaging anybody that's here in town. But it was clear that we would want to have, reasonable communication, you know, whether we pre-schedule that and say, yes, we'll see somebody at every 6th meeting or something like that.
They also suggested keeping this smaller community group, whether it's people from the from the Public Safety Committee, or it's just various, as a working group that maybe every quarter this deputy comes in and they have a discussion of, look, this is what's been going on the last quarter, this is what we've done.
We've been hearing.
That way we have some oversight, not just by me and not just coming to the select board, but that the people that have put some time and some effort into making sure that this I mean, I felt like that was important to them, that we draw some of the community members in as maybe not daily oversight, but quarterly oversight of just report to us, let us know what you're doing, what you're finding in town, what are the problems, what are the, so that could be a little bit of a transition of what we have for public safety committee to this smaller group of people that.
And I think, you know, the discussion about that centered, you know, not specifically, but I think the concept was to avoid sort of getting back to where we were a little while ago, where it suddenly felt like there was a communication barrier, and you know, there wasn't one per se, but it was miscommunication for various different reasons. And if we try and have something in place to minimize that, we're likely to be able to stay ahead of it.
I mean, I did tell them too that this does not mean that we're not just going to stop looking at alternatives if that's what we hear that the town wants.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden we hear, you know, the public safety committee is still going to be working, there was a lot of work done on possibly creating a municipal department, and that's not dead. That by no means is that a discussion that we're not going to continue to have. So, and they were, you know, I just wanted to make sure they knew that, and so, yeah, I think I'm feeling good about moving forward, and
It seems like communication is good,
Yeah.
and that everybody wants to make an effort to have that continue to be the case, and to tweak things as we go in order to have that community.
I feel like he's clearly gotten the message, like you said,
Yeah.
that we don't want to be the
Training ground.
the 6-year person here,
experiment.
that person moves, and then we get that's not what we want. So I think he clearly understands that.
Yeah,
But like with what Josh suggested, you know, with the 2 levels of, that they have to train somebody somewhere, you know, and with us helping support that, then, you know, I think it makes the department stronger, I think it would make everything stronger.
yeah, I mean, it brings in, you know, I think, again, using Josh as an example, you know, you bring somebody in who's
Well, I mean, if you recall,
who's a little bit green coming in to
Yeah.
start.
So was Melissa.
Exactly,
And
it's
to be very
helpful for them,
popular.
yeah, it's helpful for them
Exactly. So
to
the
be in a
process
community
that
like
she
this.
went through,
Yeah,
you know, she grew into her position,
Yeah.
and then, you know, was
yeah,
pulled
I think,
from under us to an
right.
extent.
For
So what
that,
we're trying to
though-
avoid is that happening to us.
and for that,
Which
we
is-
went from very little to green, then we went from really good to green,
Right.
so there's this,
Right.
so I think
So
that,
we're
I
just-
think that
we're looking
the,
for-
Avoid that.
yeah,
So
I think
rather
that the
do this.
suggestion that there's a split shift kind of, you know, we've got somebody that, even if they both end up being level 3, because Josh is going to be going to training, you know, and
And we were clear that that is what we would be expecting primarily is a level 3 person, but that if there
But
is
recognizing
somewhat of a
that-
mix,
right.
you know, the other thing that meshes with, I think, somewhat as, you know, part of the model that we have talked about various different times is sharing somebody with Westminster or Dummerston a little bit. And I think it just allows Sheriff Clark the flexibility to say, you know, I'm going to have this person overlap with that area,
Sure.
and, you know, shift them around. And then again, the more sort of regional feel it is to it is better. Maybe whoever's covering Dummerston, you know, overlaps into part of Putney, and they get to know that crowd better, or however that works. I think.
well, we have invested, and Josh has invested time here.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
he's gotten to know people, so why would we all of a sudden say, you know, no, he's not allowed, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like that wouldn't be a good, well, it's not a good message to him, first
And
of
it's
all.
good,
'cause
no, and it's good training
yeah,
for him to come up through
Yeah,
town to have. I mean, sit down in front of Scott and he starts berating you. You know.
yeah.
Talk to the hand, right?
So that was the meeting, we will obviously talk about it a little bit more, but I'll move forward with the public safety committee. I think that probably the 3 people that we're talking about probably will be pulled from the public safety committee.
As
And,
long as they're
you know,
willing and interested.
Yeah,
Right, and then, I mean,
You know.
I would say there's one or two more that might be interested too, especially if one might represent Landmark, for example, or someone might, you know.
We talked about that. You know, the only, I think we need to be thoughtful about, and I don't want to point a finger at Landmark in this respect, but we need to be careful about somebody with an agenda coming on. I mean, you know, Landmark is obviously very important, and yes, they should definitely have a voice in this process, but
what we talked about was even trying to just geographically
a little bit
pick people from each kind of geographic location just to cover, you know,
who hears about what over here versus over there,
you know, and when they
there.
sit down with this person who potentially could be the deputy that's assigned here on a full-time basis, to just generally talk about, you know, those kinds of things. The people that are living here, like I wouldn't be I don't live here 24 hours a day. I'm not, you know, I'm not living, you know, if this was a Westminster, I could tell you what happens in my little neck of the woods. But so I think that was a good suggestion of, you know, just, and that doesn't mean that it has to be those three all the time.
No.
We switch
And
it
I
up.
also, I mean, those would be subject to open meeting law. I mean, whether they'd be posted or not, I don't know, but they would be certainly accessible to the public if they were, and or anybody, you know, well, anybody who had an interest, so.
So the meeting will be next Thursday, and then I'll do a follow-up. I'll let you know what we talked about at the following meeting. That's all I got.
That's it?
I don't have a budget report.
No budget report. All right. It's a pile of warrants. So start your end.
Did you want to read Animal Control Officer? You know, when you come to a meeting, you get assigned something.
Yeah, I saw him raise his hand.
I have a thing that you start
lock
right
that door.
Just because I saved you that.
I do have to say, I had a call the other day that I did end up putting a plea out on Facebook of anybody that wants to be animal control. I didn't get any calls. But there were 2 dogs running in town, and I have no idea how we were going to get them down to the Humane Society. Luckily, by the time I went up there to check it out, it was up by, well, the guy from Liquid Sun said that the dogs jumped in the back of somebody's car and off they went. I'm assuming it was the owner, but I don't know that.
One hopes it's the owner.
I have no idea who they were,
Or did we just witness a
Dog nap.
a dog napping?
So that was, I don't know what I would have done, honestly.
Check to Deborah Rucker. ENB, Vermont Municipal, what is that?
Oh, it's the bond bank.
Okay, that's what it
yeah.
is.
When you get the pickup truck for the town, can you get a big dog cage that goes in the back of it?
Well, I called Tom and said, "You want to help me with something?" He's like, "What?" I said, "I have a dog issue." There was a big pause. Okay, I'll bring it up.
You could add that to Lenny's criteria.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a good idea.
Well, that's not a bad idea right there.
Well, and it might actually be worth talking to him. I have no idea whether he'd be interested. I don't know whether.
I should say all I really need, because there's a lot I
Oh, you
need
were
when
so-
it comes from dog
That was
to
Brett
dog stuff.
Castine, by the way.
They're gonna get that on film.
I have been managing to muddle through complaints and stuff and working with property owners and neighbors and that stuff. So I've been able to muddle through that stuff. It's really when we have a stray dog that if I don't know who the owner is, it has to be transported. And I'm not gonna put a dog in my car. I'm afraid of dogs, first of all, if they're not mine. I mean, I did put a dog in the shed one day because I knew the owner, and the dog barked for an hour before the owner came. and tried to knock the door open but when you don't know the owner, there's no tags or anything, there's not much you can do. We did just deal with a dog bite that thankfully the owner of the dog and the person that got bit are working well together on that process, but like I said, I'm muddling through, but I'm hanging on by a thread. So I was like, even if somebody doesn't want to be animal control officer, if they're willing to transport, you know, is there, you know, if I could call somebody and say, you know, but then we get into the liability and you gotta have the insurance, make sure they're covered by our insurance in case something happens. And yeah, it's not good. I don't know what to do.
Dog pen.
Yeah.
No dogs.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll tell you, when I found out that those dogs didn't have tags or anything, I was not spending any time finding somebody. I was going to find somebody to put them in their car and bring them to the Humane Society. I'm not tracking them.
Trying to figure out
Yeah.
your rights. No.
Yeah, I mean, that's a cost to the person when they get down there. They have to pay to get them out, and so we try as much as we can to have that not happen, but I mean, we spend a lot of time on the phone talking to people and telling them your dog is here, can you go get them, you know, they've got it chained. There's one that goes to petting school all the time. You know, it's to the point where when I call, he answers, he's like, is my dog up there again? It is. Next time it's going right to the Humane Society.
But it's untagged and
That one we just happen to know who it is now
Right.
because it's their dog.
but they still haven't licensed or.
Well, I think that one did license
Okay.
that. Yeah, they did license that one.
At some point, somebody must make the connection.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
I don't have anything else, but we do have
Anything
an
else?
executive session.
All right, well, then I guess we will,
I'll make a motion to enter executive session for Title I, VSA 313, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public official or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decision during the open meeting.
Second.
all right. Moved and second to go into executive session.
How are you?
All in favor?
I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And a motion to adjourn? Are we done?
A motion to adjourn. There will be no action taken on
There were,
as a result of
discussion of.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.